Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Cardcasters, and today's a very exciting episode, at least for me personally, because today we have Isaac Childres of Cephalofair Games. You may know him as the designer of Gloomhaven. So, Isaac, how are you today?
Hello, I'm doing pretty great.
That's great. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you giving us time out of your very busy schedule, I'm sure, to talk to us here at Cardcasters. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's no problem. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so here at Cardcasters, we are primarily a podcast about strategy card game design and closely related topics. So our astute listeners will probably point out to me, hey, Gloomhaven is not a card game. It's very much a board game. So what are we doing talking to Isaac Childres? Well, we were keen to talk to you, Isaac, because many of us primarily card game players have been very drawn to the design of Gloomhaven. We're really interested in the card aspects of the game's design, and it kind of feels like there's a significant amount of strategy card game DNA in the design of Gloomhaven, per se. So we'd like to know, are you a fan of strategy card games? Do you play them often? Which kind of games have you played? How did they influence the design of Gloomhaven, if at all? So could you speak to that a little bit?
I guess the short answer would be not really.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't play much strategy card games at all. I guess I did pick up a couple Keyforge decks, if that counts, just like everyone else in the world.
After the design of Gloomhaven, presumably.
Right, yeah. Not much influence there on the actual design of Gloomhaven.
Well, you are a PhD in physics, isn't that right? So unless you're sitting on some time travel technology that you're not telling the rest of us about.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So where did all the card play aspect of the design come from then, if you haven't played a great deal of strategy card games? Because it feels very much like there's that kind of element of deck building in the way that you construct your character's choice of hand and things like that. So where did that whole aspect of the game come from?
I don't know. I mean, I play lots of, board games in general that, like Gloomhaven aren't specifically strategy card games, but, have those elements to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a love of board games, I think, and all that comes along with that. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So we are wildly off base with all of our assumptions about there being any element of strategy card game design into Gloomhaven. All right. So Carl
Chudik's, like the sort of the idea of multi-use cards, like Glory to Rome or something like that. I'd say has a larger influence.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I guess that speaks very much to how many strategy card games really are board games in an abstracted way, per se. There's a lot of DNA in the design between strategy card games and board games that I think sometimes we forget about how related they are. I mean, Magic the Gathering. I mean, would you agree Magic the Gathering is a board game in the broader sense of the term?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I include the term board game to, pretty much include anything that you sit down at a table and play with something like in a physical sense. So yeah, whether it's just cards or just a pack of dice or something, like it's still a board game.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So tabletop gaming in general is what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think you'll ever design something as large as Gloomhaven again? Like, do you at all feel burnt out on making these massive games with hundreds of interlocking pieces and systems? Because when I try and think about what went into the design of this game, it just blows my mind. Like how balanced it is at different player counts, the way it scales with the level of the game of the scenario that you're doing and the enemies. It just blows my mind. Like we're just all in awe of how you pulled this off. Do you think you'll ever do something as big as this again, or was it significantly exhausting that you feel like you're not going to do a whole new system in the future?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's very flattering. um, I don't think I'm going to design a new system that's so all encompassing. But yeah, I do plan on, I guess, iterating on the system, and also, just expansions and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll be making games with a similar amount of content in the future, but I'll probably be sort of, riffing or just rehashing the same sort of core system of dungeon crawls and playing two cards and doing the top of one and the bottom of the other. So I think it's a really solid system.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exciting to hear that you at least sound like you plan to keep generating content for this system for the foreseeable future. Am I in the ballpark with that statement?
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay, so there'll be a question about that from a fan later on, but let's just go a little bit more into some design questions about the game. We've got Evan from the Strategy Card Games Facebook group, and he would like to know a bit more about the playtesting and development of Gloomhaven. Now, I know you've spoken about this elsewhere. You've got some blogs that go into quite a lot of detail about the process. So we're not asking you to repeat yourself per se, but perhaps you could speak more to the designers that are listening out there who want to know, how did you go about like balancing the numbers, the action points, resources, things like this? A lot of our designers in our Facebook group at the moment are really struggling with this element of their game. Like, how do I know that this player action is equal to or worth this action elsewhere in the game, and things like that.
Yeah.
So could you maybe talk a bit about how you went about that and any sort of interesting tips or solutions that manifested along the way?
Sure, I can try. So
that was a huge question. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. So the general idea, right? It's just a lot of it just comes down to a lot of play testing. I would say that first. So I didn't design all of Gloomhaven at once. So I sat down and just started with a single scenario. 4 character classes, 3 monster types. It's basically the first scenario that you play when you open the box, and just sort of playing that over and over with different groups of people, just trying to get the feel for it right. So if you're designing like a strategy card game, you're not trying to make like all cards at once. You might just start with like a limited set and just make sure that those cards work together appropriately, right? And then just sort of expand out from there.
Right. Yeah.
So that's pretty much what I did there. I got the system together where I had these 4 character classes that felt fairly balanced with this system, and I had sort of this general concept for the scenarios where, there might be 3 rooms in the scenario and there's this many monsters in each room, and just sort of sticking to that formula. And yeah, it basically all just came down to formulas. Well, in one sense, right? So I make a new scenario, I can just put a similar amount of monsters in that scenario, and as long as, there has to be a lot of play testing as well to make sure, like, if I add new monsters, they're similarly balanced to the previous monsters. But sort of having these metrics allowed me to at least create a lot of content and get close to where it should be in terms of balance, and then sort of play testing them and tweaking them as necessary. But a lot of times, it's creating all this content can be overwhelming because if you don't have the systems in place, like you're just like shooting in the dark. And so then you come down to playtesting, and it requires like a lot more playtesting because you didn't start in a close place to where it should be in the first place. So yeah, just having those metrics on hand, and so you can get close, at least in that first iteration, I think is important. And then in terms of character balance, having like the 17 different characters and all of them being balanced. I don't know. I'm flattered that people think that they're all balanced. I think there are some that are maybe a little more powerful than others, and I think those have been identified online. And we did some retweaking in the second printing to try and bring him back down. But yeah, again, it's just, I don't know. I sort of did that a lot by feel. It's just I have like an idea. I sort of like the baseline, which is the brute, which is a very simple character, just does like X amount of damage at this level, and moves this amount, and he has some special abilities to make it more interesting. But overall, like, he's pretty basic and just sort of a baseline. And then I just try and create characters and sort of compare them to him. Like, is this ability roughly equal to this other ability that the brute might have? And it gets pretty tricky. The more crazy and complicated you make the characters. So there is a lot more playtesting there. Like I said, I would say that I did a lot more playtesting just focused on the characters than I did on the scenarios, because the scenarios, I think, were much easier to create and balance.
Right.
But yeah, it basically just comes down to a lot of playtesting, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty impressive how balanced the game was on release, even in the first edition. I mean, I know there were some minor changes between the first and the second, but it's remarkable, really, that something with so many characters and enemy types, and just it felt really balanced straight out of the box. I mean, was that just hundreds and hundreds of hours of playtesting? How many hours of playtesting went into getting it to that point where it felt like everything was balanced?
I don't know. I wish I could give you a number. I didn't really keep track. I was developing content for like over the course of a year probably. And, I had a lot of outside groups. So, I would send them, different characters to try and play. And then they would send feedback back to me. And I had my own core group that met, like maybe once a week, just to play through scenarios and play different character classes. So,
okay.
And then I did a lot of playtesting just on my own, just, sitting down with 2 or 3 characters and playing through scenarios with them as well. I couldn't even really give you an estimate. It's been so long now, and I didn't really record it.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I can only imagine how much work went into it. It's just mind-boggling. Okay, so the next thing I want to ask about then is, are you happy with the state of the game in terms of balancing now that, I mean, there's only so much you can do before you send it out, and now you've got hundreds of thousands of people playing this game out there. Are you happy with the state of it now? Do you see any further balancing, or do you think it's pretty much where you think it should be now with all the character classes and things like that?
Oh, like I said, like, I think some characters might still be a little too powerful. Some abilities might still be too powerful. I've talked about this elsewhere. Like some of the kill abilities, where you're just allowed to just like straight up kill a monster are a little too powerful.
Yeah.
And stamina potions, everyone loves stamina potions. So I don't know. I don't want to say anything for sure, but like I think at some point in the future, will be a second edition where we make more changes. But now, like, between printings, from like the 5th to the 6th printing or whatever, like, we're probably not going to tweak the game anymore until that point.
Okay.
Just because, there was a lot of outcry when I did do minor tweaks between some of the printings. So we'll just wait for second edition probably to do more changes. And I have no idea when that's going to happen, but I just assume that it'll probably happen.
Okay. So that leads to my next question. With the digital version coming out soon, it's in development at the moment. We're all very excited about that. Could there be any interesting data that they might feed back to you after having large amounts of people playing and recording games, where I assume they'll be able to keep track of the way that scenarios have played out? Do you think there could be any interesting data in there? And have you talked about that with them? Are they going to feed back any sort of information to you from that, or anything like that?
We've talked a little bit about that. I think mostly from the standpoint of maybe playtesting, so we can, if I'm designing something, we could maybe implement new characters in that platform and do, like large scale playtesting, which I think will be really helpful. Yeah, that
sounds really cool, really exciting. I guess that's that's an inherent flaw with the tabletop format, isn't it? That there's only so much development you can do on your own, and then when it goes out to vastly more people than you could have working on the game yourself, they're always going to catch things, aren't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be really interesting to see what happens with the digital game. And playtesting sounds great for new characters, and it would be interesting if they said, "Oh, we're noticing that on this particular scenario, a very large percent of this particular action is happening," or something like that. I'd be really interested. I don't know if they're going to share that kind of information, but as a designer, I'd be really interested to see what kind of data comes out from all the people playing the game around the world.
Yeah, I'd be interested as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we have some fan questions from the Gloomhaven Facebook group. So first one is from Anne, and she asks, how is the large expansion coming along? Is there any news that you can share there for us?
It's coming along, definitely coming along. No news I can share though. But I think, in the next, I don't know, I'll say 6 months, you should be hearing something more about it. I mean, coming along is still like a ways off, just because it takes so much time to create all this new content and everything. But definitely working on it.
Okay. And Forgotten Circles is just getting out there and reaching players at the moment. How do you feel about the reception it's had so far?
I've been pretty happy with the reception. I think it's been doing well. I just the only real metric I have is like Board Game Geek, and people seem to be rating it pretty highly on there. And communities talking about it in the forums and asking lots of questions. And so it's been, I think it's been pretty great so far. I hope over time more people get to play it. It's a little hard to get to the table just because you need to have finished the main Gloomhaven campaign, which itself takes a long time.
Right.
But hopefully, over time, more people will finish the campaign and get to play the expansion as well, because I think it's really great. I think people are going to enjoy it and are enjoying it.
Well, I haven't had a chance to get my hands on it myself, so I'm eagerly awaiting it. I'm very excited to dig into that. So yeah, I don't know what to say about it because I haven't played it yet, but I'm excited to hear that other people absolutely love it and think it's fantastic. So yeah, congratulations on that. It sounds like it's been a hit so far.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so the next one, Lucas asks, it's known that you're a fan of the games of Vlada Chvátil. So what are your thoughts about Mage Knight? And he's asking, did it inspire the creation of Gloomhaven in any way?
Yeah.
Especially regarding the use of cards. A lot of people have noted that it seems there is kind of some similar mechanics there.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, we were talking about influences. I would definitely say Mage Knight was an influence on the creation. Yeah, sort of this heavy, puzzly Euro but is about, running around and killing monsters, just in a very thematic way. So yeah, I would say, Mage Knight's one of my favorite games, and I've certainly played it a lot, and I'm sure it's had, some influences on the game design. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Matt asks, which is your favorite race in the world of Gloomhaven and why?
My favorite race. I don't know. I guess I have an affinity for the Quattrals, the little technological guys running around making machines. I don't know. I love all the races. I mean, I'm really happy with all the world building I put into that and how it's sort of come out, and also just its reception. Like how much everyone loves like the little Mind Thief and the Cragheart.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's a bit like being asked which is your favorite baby, or it's a bit of a hard question to answer, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, that leads into the next one. Philippe asks, do you plan to release any more lore about the world of Gloomhaven outside of what is already available? He notes that he's already fully explored founders of Gloomhaven, the town records, and the Races of Gloomhaven videos. So he's obviously a very dedicated fan there. And he adds, it would be great to know more about the relations between the races, their customs, and what's beyond the borders of Gloomhaven and its surroundings. So is there anything that you can tell us about what might be upcoming in terms of lore?
I can definitely say that more lore is forthcoming in a variety of new games, and we're also working on some other projects. Nothing I can announce right now, but yeah, definitely coming, and not just in games. I think we'll be doing some other cool stuff as well in the future.
That sounds incredibly exciting. It's just enough of a clue to know that there's a lot more Gloomhaven coming, which is great because I can't get enough of Gloomhaven. I think it's one of the best games that's ever been designed, and more Gloomhaven is always a good thing for sure. Yeah. Anything to do with role playing games, perhaps?
Nothing. Honestly, like nothing has been confirmed or planned yet, but I would like to at some point. Maybe pursue a Gloomhaven role playing game. We'll see if it happens. Like I'm not sure, but I think that would be interesting for sure.
Okay, how much math went into the playtesting and balancing? Just to go back to development questions again. How much did you use math? Like, did you have any sort of system where actions were equal to a specific value, and then you used that base value to quantify other actions? Was there any? I mean, this is something that some developers do. Was there anything like that, or was it more a case of let's try this value and play it and see if it feels overpowered or underpowered? Was it more that kind of try it and feel how it feels? Or can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I think it's probably more of the latter, playing it by feel, or designing by feel, just sort of how does this feel, this action feel compared to another. I mean, sure, you can compare specific values, like an attack 4 versus an attack 5. But there's so many disparate, crazy abilities in the game. It's hard to like come up with a value for each of them. So it really did have to just be sort of a trial and error sort of thing, and balancing as to what felt right. Yeah.
How did you go about playtesting things that didn't have a numerical value? So, for example, like effects that were more like a line of text as opposed to attack 3 at this range or whatever it was. Like, how did you go about the balancing of non-numerical effects in the game? Because there's quite a lot of them, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I always started, I guess, when you're designing a character, I always just started from the perspective of thematically, like, what should this character be doing? Like, how should it be performing its actions? Right. And so from that, I'd come up with the abilities, like, well, I don't want to get into any specifics of spoilers and stuff like that, but, I'd get a list of abilities together and start making these ability cards. And then it just would hit the table, and I'd see, I have some very good playtesters who are determined to break everything I put in front of them and just exploit the crap out of them. So, it's great. Just like putting it in front of one of them and seeing what they do with it. And being like, oh yeah, okay, that, you can use that to get like, enough shield to never have to worry about getting damaged again. So that's obviously overpowered, just things like that. That's sort of an extreme example, but so yeah, it's like I said, like it's all just sort of building the character by feel, and then just sitting down and playing with it until it feels right, I guess.
Okay. So, with all the design experience from Gloomhaven, but also Founders, Forge Wars, your other games, you're also working or have worked on Return to Dark Tower, which is something people are really excited about. What sort of design lessons have you taken into new projects from the experience of working on specifically Gloomhaven being such a large game? Was there anything that you learned in particular that has been helpful for you in designing other games?
Well, I mean, I would say that game design, like as a whole, has been a long and educational journey. Starting out like designing my first game, Forge War, and just going from there. Like I feel like I've learned a lot of lessons from each game that I've designed. So not just Gloomhaven, but like Founders of Gloomhaven as well. I could say specifically, after making Founders of Gloomhaven, I sort of realized, like with the somewhat negative reception it got from a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people love the game as well, but I sort of realized that for a larger audience, that like it was too like rules heavy. Like there were just like too many little rules that you could easily get wrong that end up just kind of annoying certain players. And so I've definitely like taken that lesson into future designs, and probably going back to Gloomhaven with that is just trying to keep things a little simpler, like a little more streamlined and clear when it comes to rules, so you don't get like caught up in all the nitty gritty stuff.
Do you think there was any expectation that Founders would be a little bit more like the experience of playing Gloomhaven because of the thematic use of the IP? Like, do you think there was any element of that going on, that people were expecting similar gameplay?
I mean, I hope not. I would wish that nobody comes into that with that expectation. I tried to make it like very clear, during the Kickstarter and also afterwards, just, descriptions and whatnot, that this was a completely different game. But I think, it's hard to get that message to everybody. And so some people just see the word Gloomhaven and they think it's something different than it is. I think in the future, like I do want to make more games in that same world, similar to Founders in that they're not Gloomhaven, but they're, in the world, but they're more Euro type games. I think I might avoid putting Gloomhaven in the title in the future, though.
Okay. Well, Isaac, thanks very much for talking to us today. You've very graciously given us half an hour out of your day, so we're just running out of time. Are there any projects or anything is there anything upcoming that you'd like to plug to our listeners?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you talked about it briefly. The digital version of Gloomhaven is coming out. Asmodee is announcing the date right now. They actually haven't. I'm not sure they've given it to me specifically, so I'm not sure I can say what it is.
Yeah, but that's fine.
But yeah, by the time this comes out, you should be able to look that up if you're interested and figure out what the date is. I think it's later this month.
Oh, we're all waiting for that with bated breath. Very excited.
But yeah, you should check out the digital version. It's pretty great. It looks great, and it's got all the Gloomhaven gameplay that you're familiar with, and so yeah, I think that's going to be really exciting. Other than that, Forgotten Circles. So if you're a fan of Gloomhaven, you probably already know about Forgotten Circles, but yeah, you should pick it up. I mean, even if you haven't completed the main game, there's one new character class in the box that you can play without having to do that. So you can just pull that character class out of the box and play with that until you finish the main game, and then play the rest of it. So yeah, check that out too.
Fantastic. And the as of yet unnamed large expansion coming down the track somewhere.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that as well.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. Okay, thanks very much for your time, Isaac. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for giving us time out of your day. And yeah, good luck with everything. And thank you for creating one of the best board games of recent years, if not all time, which is my personal opinion for sure. Thank you very much.
Well, all right. Well, thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, take care. One more thing, ladies and gentlemen, the music is by Boxcat Games. It's from the Hackers RPG soundtrack. It's under a Creative Commons license. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Cardcasters. See you next time.